What if I told you that one of the most infamous serial killers in American history was never caught? What if I told you he didn't hide in the shadows, but communicated directly with the press, taunting law enforcement with cryptic codes and promising more death? This is the story of a monster who called himself the Zodiac, a killer who terrorized Northern California, forever changing the way we look over our shoulder. Our story begins on a dark night in Vallejo, California, specifically on December 20th, 1968. The victims, 17-year-old David Faraday and 16-year-old Betty Lou Jensen, who were spending time together on their first date, parked on a lonely stretch of road known as Lake Herman Road. An unidentified vehicle pulled up next to them, and moments later, gunshots rang out. David was tragically shot in the head, and Betty Lou was found yards away, shot 5 times in the back as she desperately tried to flee. This was the Zodiac's first confirmed attack, a brutal, seemingly random act of violence. But the crime scene offered few clues, and the case quickly stalled because no one knew what was coming next. 6 months later, the Zodiac struck again, this time with a chilling, brazen twist in the Blue Rock Springs Golf Course parking lot, also in Vallejo, on July 4th, 1969. Darlene Ferrin and Mike Mageau were quietly parked when a lone car pulled up and intentionally blocked their exit, trapping them. A man with a flashlight then calmly approached the vehicle, proceeding to fire multiple shots at the couple. Darlene Ferrin was tragically killed, while Mike Mageau miraculously survived the attack, wounded, but able to provide law enforcement with some information. He provided the police with a detailed physical description of the assailant, a stocky white male in his late 20s or early 30s. This testimony established the first physical profile of the Zodiac killer. But the true terror, the moment the case shifted from local murder to national obsession, began the very next day, when the killer called the Vallejo Police Department, chillingly confessing to both the Lake Herman Road and Blue Rock Springs murders, confirming that the case was no longer just a crime, but a calculated conversation. And then came the letters, starting in August 1969, when 3 major newspapers, the Vallejo Times-Herald, the San Francisco Chronicle, and the San Francisco Examiner, all received nearly identical letters from the self-proclaimed killer, who aggressively demanded they be printed on the front page, threatening to cruise around killing all weekend long if his instructions were ignored. Each terrifying letter contained 1/3 of a cipher, a complex, coded message the writer chillingly claimed contained his identity, making this the killer's first great taunt to the public and the police. The cipher, a seemingly random string of symbols, was solved within days by a schoolteacher named Donald Hardin and his wife, Betty, but it didn't reveal his name. Instead, it confirmed his horrifying motive, stating in part, "I like killing people because it is so much fun. It is more fun than killing wild game in the forest, because man is the most dangerous animal of all." He signed the letter with a cross-circle symbol, the unique emblem he would use for all future communication, the Zodiac. The Zodiac, having successfully gained the intense media attention he craved, quickly became bolder, targeting Brian Hartnell and Cecilia Shepard on September 27, 1969, as they enjoyed a picnic near Lake Berryessa in Napa County. A man approached the young couple wearing a terrifying, elaborate hooded costume, a black fabric hood emblazoned with the cross-circle symbol, sewn onto the chest, before he methodically tied them up, proceeding to stab them repeatedly with a large hunting knife. Before calmly departing the scene, the killer walked to Hartnell's car and, in a gesture of pure arrogance, wrote a message on the door documenting his previous attacks. He then made a separate, chilling phone call to the Napa County Sheriff's Office, directing them to the scene of his latest outrage. Cecilia Shepard tragically died 2 days later, but Brian Hartnell survived and gave authorities a detailed account of the terrifying attack. The fourth confirmed attack, demonstrating an even greater level of recklessness, occurred on October 11, 1969, when a taxi driver named Paul Stein picked up a fare in downtown San Francisco, only to be shot point-blank in the head upon reaching the destination, marking the killer's first murder within the city limits. Crucially, a key piece of bloody evidence was left at the scene, a piece of Stein's blood-stained shirt, which the killer sent to the San Francisco Chronicle along with a letter, terrifyingly threatening to shoot out the tires of a school bus and systematically kill the children as they disembarked. The Zodiac had now claimed 5 lives and wounded 2 others in 3 different counties, proving himself to be elusive, theatrical, and utterly terrifying. Following the highly public Paul Stine murder, the flood of communication from the Zodiac continued aggressively, but his actual physical attacks on victims became noticeably less frequent, eventually stopping entirely. Over the next few years, he tormented the public and the police by sending more letters and complex ciphers, continuing his pattern of unsettling correspondence. The 340 cipher, a notorious message sent in November 1969, proved to be an agonizing and persistent challenge for authorities, ultimately remaining officially unsolved for a remarkable 51 years, until it was finally cracked in 2020 by a determined team of civilian codebreakers. However, like the first encoded message, this cipher tragically failed to reveal the killer's name, instead containing more of his chilling, arrogant rhetoric directed at the police. He also sent another cryptic message known as the Zodiac Killer Map, a code that, to this day, remains officially unsolved and holds the tantalizing possibility of revealing his true identity. The total confirmed count of Zodiac victims remains 5, though the killer frequently and chillingly boasted of many more, claiming responsibility for up to 37 murders. Law enforcement across multiple jurisdictions investigated numerous possible victims, but the definite, confirmed paper trail of authentic Zodiac activity definitively ends with a letter dated March 1971. For a time, the letters continued sporadically over the following decade, with the last communication considered truly credible sent in 1974. After that final taunt, the Zodiac simply vanished, becoming a true unsolved specter of California history. Decades of intense investigation have focused on various suspects, the most publicly discussed being Arthur Lee Allen, a known child molester and registered felon. He matched some early witness descriptions, was known to wear the Zodiac brand watch, and lived in the areas of the attacks. However, fingerprints, palm prints, and DNA evidence never provided a conclusive match to confirm him as the killer. Other theories have pointed to various individuals over the years, but the one persistent, haunting fact remains. The Zodiac killer was never officially identified, charged, or apprehended. The case fundamentally exposed the fragmented nature of law enforcement across different jurisdictions and proved how a killer using rudimentary tools like letters and codes could paralyze a major American city. The Zodiac's actions created a mystery that continues to haunt us, and his identity is buried in those unsolved codes, in the memories of the survivors, and in the sheer audacity of his crimes. And though the confirmed Zodiac case file is decades old, the investigation itself remains officially open, leaving a persistent scar in the history of American true crime. He became a ghost, vanishing into the fabric of society after his final credible communication. Do you believe the Zodiac simply stopped killing, retiring from his reign of terror? Or do you believe his name is still, somehow, truly hidden within one of his unsolved ciphers? Share your theories, your insights, and your conclusions about the identity of the Zodiac killer in the comments below.